Hello, everyone. My friend Otto Yang posted a lengthy comment on a Facebook group about flexible nibs and his concerns, valid concerns, I guess, about people pressing too hard and damaging a pen. And I agree with much of what he says. I don't necessarily agree with everything he's implying, but I do think a flexible nib fountain pen is meant to be flexed. How far you flex it and how often you flex it is the question. If you take any car you buy today at a showroom, you see that the speedometer might go to 100. 100. Does that mean you'll ever drive it that far? Probably not, at least not in the United States. But the fact that it can go that fast means that it can go that fast. Now, would you go 100 miles an hour for 5 hours straight until you run out of gas? I don't know whether that's healthy for a car. I don't know anything about cars. Presumably, something is going to break. But most people that use a flexible nib pen will use it not at full bore, because if you do that, you're only making a straight line that goes that way until the ink runs out. So it might be, 300 feet long. And why do you want to do that? You're continually going up and down, you're pressing down, you're lifting up, you're pressing down, you're lifting up. You're taking it through its paces, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. Let's pretend for a second, though, that this nib goes that far. It can go that far. It can go a little further than that. There is a point at which, though, any pen, you can press down too far, too hard, and it will break. Or it will bend in such an amount that it doesn't go back together again. I've been using vintage fountain pens for 41 years, and I think I have a sense in my fingertips to hear when the pen says to me, "Okay, Daddy, that's enough," or whatever it would say. This is as far as I can go. Don't push any further. Generally, I can hear that. The times that I cannot hear that correctly, when I do hear a voice that doesn't make sense to me, I often will get out my loop and look at the pen nib, and I'll discover that there's a little crack that already exists in the nib, where this tine spreads more quickly than that tine, and I can sense that as I'm writing. I think, well, why is this so sloppy? Well, it's because it's a damaged nib. And I didn't do that. I mean, yes, in 40 years, I have damaged maybe 10 nibs, some by dropping them point down on the hardwood floor. That wasn't a good thing to do, Pierre Gustafson. Sometimes by drawing very fast. I was going like this with a very flexible nib pen, and I hit the printed line on a page, just a horizontal line on an old ledger book, and it hit this little raised ink area, and it broke. It just snapped, and I thought, I wore a black armband for a week. That was really, really depressing. That was the first pen I bought from my company that I now own. It was a un it was a Eversharp adjustable nib. It was missing its adjuster, but it also had two slits cut in it on either side of the main slit, two little tiny slits, and it broke right there. And that it was, going along, and it hit this tine, hit that little printed line of ink, and it sort of tripped over itself and cracked. And it was really, 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 really sad. I've only seen one of these pens that had these extra slits cut in it. And it was the first pen I bought, and I have not found another one. Anyway, I'm pretty good at at listening to the pen when it says, this is as far as I want to go. I'm done. So don't press any further. I hope that most people have ears in their fingers and can hear their pen say that, but I'm sure some of them don't. I'm sure many people don't have that ability, and they'll press down too hard and break a flexible nib, which is very sad. I've used, in my business of calligraphing envelopes, I've used my Victorian dip pen nibs, Franken pens, like this one here, and I've done them, I've calligraphed thousands of envelopes, and where sometimes I have to, every downstroke the client wants me to make shaded. I don't like doing that, but not because I'm harming the pen, but I just don't like the look of it. I prefer to save the thick lines to the longer natural lines, on the capital letter, also on longer letters like a J or a G or an L. I apply pressure then. I don't really apply pressure on the little tiny letters like an E or an O or an I. Those remain unshaded. But I've used pens like this almost exclusively. There was one that I used for a good 15 years. And it still works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And but someone could do tests. Someone could take two flexible nib pens and put them on some sort of machine, one that presses down all the time, see how long that lasts, versus one that presses down every third time and see how long it lasts, and someone can come up with an answer. But I don't think using a pen properly, using a flexible nib properly, is going to harm the nib. They're meant to do that. They're meant to make a line that's varied. Otherwise, they wouldn't make them. So, among the things that was mentioned in the various other comments to Otto's post was one by Nicola Pang, who showed a beautiful calligraphic bird. Those birds that penmen often drew to show off how well they drew calligraphic birds. Now, it showed how masterful they were at drawing the same stroke over and over and over again, and in between each stroke they'd have little dots, and they'd swoop the line down and do other parts of the bird. And they're beautiful, beautiful, beautiful drawings. They're not very realistic, from a ornithologist's point of view. Those birds could no more fly than I can. But they're beautiful to look at. So I made a series of bird drawings too at one point in my life, and I'll try to imitate one here. I have my two pens I'm going to use. They're both Waterman 52s. One I'm going to use, here's the head of the bird. Here's the tail. Here's the foot. Here's another foot. There's a wing and another wing. Come on. I'm just dipping these rather than filling it. Now let's get some red. This is red, Lamy red. I'm using this pen did have black ink in it at one point. The last time I used this maybe was 15 years ago. Who knows? You're not really seeing that this is red, are you? It's okay. It's not all that important. Let's do this. Let's add some water to the red to Why am I adding red, you're asking? Well, these are my Audubon birds. Why are they Audubon? They're Audubon. Shit. These are the tire treads. They're roadkill birds. Autobahn is in the German highway. Autobahn, or however it's pronounced. So here the Mercedes-Benz was going in this direction, and there's the bird is squished. Get some red. There, my Audubon bird. Isn't that beautiful? Bye.